direct to you and in your face. You're listening to the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 12 noon to 4 p.m. Eastern. We are here live, simulcasting the last 2 hours today in living color at prisonplanet.tv. We're fighting the creation of a prison planet. Multiple-time best-selling author of Confessions of an Economic Hitman and now The Secret History of the American Empire. I forgot this little bestseller. The new one's coming out very, very soon, and that is Hoodwinked. John Perkins, tell us specifically, then we'll get into all these other issues, about Hoodwinked, when it's coming out, what it covers.
It comes out November 10th, Random House, and it's, what really generated it was the current recession. And my sense that all of the stuff that we're talking about, AIG, Wall Street, the banks, the auto industry, trying to deal with all of that is triage. It's putting Band-Aids on wounds, and we need the Band-Aids to a certain degree because there's a lot of hemorrhaging going on. We've got to stop. But what we really need to look at is the root cause beneath the system, beneath the surface, and that is systemic. And it's something that nobody's really looking at very hard. To me, this is a mutant form of capitalism that's been going on for about the last 30 years. And that's the real problem. We must change that. Well, sure, we need Band-Aids, but we need to go much, much deeper than that. Capitalism's been around for about 400 years. It's taken many, many different forms. And in the last 30 years, really, since the time of Reagan, and this has happened under both Democrats and Republicans, but it really started with Reagan, it's taken this trend toward this very mutant viral form of capitalism, which is extremely greedy and extremely self-destructive, ultimately. It's really the form of capitalism that came out of Milton Friedman, the economist from the University of Chicago, and Reagan bought into it big time, and every president since has bought into it.
Well, wasn't the coup de grace in 99 with the Glass-Steagall Act that Bill Clinton got rid of?
That was a big one. There's no question about it. But that's just sort of like the frosting on the cake. There was so much going on. Yeah, acts that when I went to business school in the late '60s, Alex. God, I hate to think it was so long ago, but when I went to business school in the late '60s, all my professors said there can never be another depression like the one in the '30s because we've enacted all these rules to prevent it. Well, that was true. But then we changed all that, and Glass-Steagall under Clinton was a huge part of it. But there were a whole slew of them that changed, and a whole lot of attitude toward money and usury rates. Under George Bush, we had huge increases in interest rates that people had to pay. Credit cards went up to 35%. This would have been
now they allow over 30%. That's supposed credit card reform. I mean, that's above loan sharking.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's way beyond the laws. Never would have permitted this before. After the recession, we implemented usury laws that didn't permit that, but then those all changed. There's actually some people are paying 800% on their debt. These are the people that have what we call the payday loans. You can go in before you actually get your paycheck and get a loan on the expected paycheck, and those are huge interest rates, and they're legal.
Amazing. Well, the book is coming out on November 11th, correct, John?
November 10th.
Okay, so November 10th.
Close enough.
and we've got you scheduled for the 11th then. Good.
Oh, good.
Fantastic. They just handed me a note saying he is scheduled for November 11th when it comes out. So my producer was wrong by one day. So it's coming out November 10th. Now I agree with a lot of what you have to say. Later in the interview, I want to get into, maybe somewhat of a debate about economic systems and choices. But I think what we agree on is this crony capitalist system, this mutant form of capitalism. I just call it piracy. I mean, if they can just create trillions in made-up derivatives and then have the central governments bail them out when they're using the money to then go loan it at loan sharking rates to third world countries, third world people, the American people. I mean, that's sick. We give them the government-backed loans. They then leverage it, fractional reserve it, and then we pay interest to the banks on our money they loan back to us. I mean, is that a good way of boiling it down?
That certainly is, and it is piracy. There's no question about it. And we must turn it around, Alex. And that's really a large part of Hoodwinked is what we can do, what you and I and all your listeners can do. We can take control of this. One of the things that we have to understand is that big corporations, the banks and the other corporations that are behind this, are very beholden to us. They only exist because we give them business. We buy their goods and services, or we allow our tax dollars and our government to go into that. There are many ways to resist, and I think it's terribly important that we do that now. We must turn this thing around. You know, what we have to realize in all of this is that this economic crisis is basically telling us that we have a failed system, totally failed, on a global basis. Less than 5% of the world's population live in the United States, and we consume more than 25% of the world's resources. That's a failure. It's not a model that you can give to China or India or Latin America or Africa. You need another 5 or 6 planets with all our resources and no people to be able to use this as a model for other people. So what we're seeing is a totally failed system. And we must understand that for our sake, for our children's sake, and our grandchildren's sake, we have to turn this around. We have to come up with a very, very different system.
John Perkins, I want to get into that area because I agree with you on so much, but I also disagree with you in some areas because we know we do have a wasteful form of lifestyle. We know we're 4% of the world's population in the U.S., and we use roughly half the world's resources. And we know there's a lot of toxic waste associated with that and a lot of problems. But the way I see government addressing that and the big mega corporations addressing it is by honchoing and steering the environmental movement to simply set up new taxes and control to further vertically integrate the consolidation of power in this new phase of robber baron colonialism, because they fundamentally know that there is a certain truth to what's happening to the environment on many levels, and so they wrap the truth around their overall lie of this new Bank of the World, global government, paying carbon taxes to the new Bank of the World. I mean, really, it's going from the robber barons going in and economic hitmanning third world countries under their control to now just setting up a planetary regime under the environment because they know at a base level that makes sense in people's ingrained humanity to be good stewards of the land.
Well, absolutely. And the way that they distort the truth and, you know, move groups. So today we've got these huge grassroots movements basically supported by the insurance industry and the pharmaceutical industry opposing any kind of real insurance for people that don't have insurance. We've got the corporations out there trying to make it look as though the people are behind so much of what just benefits the corporation. And, I think one amazing instance of this is what's just happened in Honduras, where a democratically elected president was overthrown by a military regime that was under the control of the CIA and big American corporate interests, the big agribusinesses, Dole and Chiquita, Kraft, Cargill, as well as the textile industry. And yet here in the United States, we're being told that this is a president who is trying to usurp the democratic process in Honduras, which is not true at all. He asked for a referendum of the people to see if they wanted to see presidential terms extended from just one term so the president could go for 2 terms. It was a non-binding referendum that he was asking for. That was used as an excuse to go in and overthrow a president.
And just to be clear, Obama came out day one a month ago and said, we're not involved, this is terrible, but now even mainstream media has come out and clearly shown private corporations, mercenaries, CIA front groups, jackals, hyenas that you call them, were clearly involved and did this and even dropped the president off at a Costa Rican U.S. military base. So I asked you during the break, I said, from what you've seen in the news, is that accurate? And you said yes. Please elaborate on the difference between an economic hitman versus jackals and hyenas and what really happened a month ago in Honduras.
Well, the economic hitman went into Honduras originally, tried to convince Zelaya, the president of Honduras, to change his ways, because what he was saying is that Honduras is going to increase its minimum wage by 60%. And that has a huge impact on Dole and Chiquita and those who hire laborers out in the field to pick all their goods, bananas. And
so they're going to go from, 50 cents an hour to $1.10 or something?
Exactly. I mean, it seems very minimal to us. And also that there's a lot of sweatshops from our textile companies, like Nike and other companies like that in there. But it's much bigger than that, Alex, because something similar happened with Aristide in Haiti. And in both Haiti and Honduras are looked at as the bottom rung on the ladder of wages in Latin America. So no country will go below those countries. So if, in fact, Honduras or Haiti increases their minimum wage, then Ecuador and Nicaragua and El Salvador and every other country in the southern hemisphere has to increase its wages to stay above those because no one wants to go below those countries. So it wasn't just about Honduras any more than it was just about Haiti. It was about drawing a line in the sand and saying, we are not going to permit this to happen. And I think we have to understand that there's a revolution going on in Latin America. 10 countries representing more than 80% of the population of South America have voted in the last few years progressive presidents who are saying no more exploitation by these foreign corporations. 10 countries. And every one of these countries, Alex, during most of my lifetime was run by brutal dictators